was rumored to be disbanding about 15, 20 years ago after some huge losses.
They say the longer you have to wait for something, the more you'll appreciate it when that someday comes.
Caught! Touchdown, Armand Benz!
We thought the moment had arrived.
They are in the playoff.
Only to find out the moment's been too big.
Hey, go to hell!
At the end of the day, it's a business.
Present day, nobody believes in this team.
Scott Satterfield, no answers at the moment.
But with this program, the best things have come when you least expect it.
Number one! Let's go!
And the Bearcats are up 16-0 in South Bend.
They're disciplined now. That loudspeaker came on, so they leave the field. I mean, they turned it around now and got off the field.
Welcome to the only live Bearcats postgame show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. The only live post-game show on YouTube and the only show that, quite frankly, forgets to turn on their mic or their camera or forgets to start the live stream and has an entire 15-minute show to themselves, apparently. As the fine producers that he just called out from Chatterbox Sports are texting, turn on your mic, Chuck! Turn on your damn mic! The show's a train wreck! Who cares? Welcome to Chatterbox Bearcats, the only live post-game show on YouTube. We go live after every single game, and if you forget to watch us, good. You can listen to us wherever you get your audio podcasts, Spotify, Apple. While you're there, subscribe and hit that bell so you know when we are live. 27 for the Bearcats, 16 for the Miami Redhawks. Round 2. Good God. Have some thoughts from this one. One, clean it up, Cincinnati. Please clean it up. This is a game that they could have won 42-16. Miami shot themselves in the foot, too, plenty of times. And I got some thoughts on Miami. I think they're going to be just fine in the MAC. One of the better 0-2 teams in the country. I sincerely mean that. Are we excited about not going back to Oxford? I give my thoughts on the Miami rivalry as a whole. Scott Satterfield was sweating. This is a game he should have won, he had to win, and he got the job done. And good God. Again, for those of you listening to the audio version, I was doing an entire 15-minute I was like 15 minutes in. I was getting ready to go downtown. Have myself a day. Wrap up the show. And little did I know, my mic wasn't on. That was worse than, for those of you, the day oneers that have tuned into the show. We beat BYU last year, and I played a little Creed. And it was supposed to be, can you take me higher? It was supposed to be very low. And I accidentally shot it up to the top on my stream deck. And it was just blaring in people's ears, and I was giving it this as the Bearcats took down a top 25 foe. Erroneous. Who cares? And then we'll have some thoughts on Houston. Quite frankly, I don't know a single player on Houston. I don't even know who coaches them. We do our prep later on the week. I'm just going to enjoy this one. But let's start with the Bearcats and a game that every punch Miami threw them, Cincinnati responded with a hook, with a little jab, and then got him with an uppercut to the chin. I mean, a good job by Cincinnati to show some resiliency. I mentioned they win by 11. 3.5 was the line. So Vegas, you could keep a ton of those points. For those of you that got in on a little 3.5 on a little money line, ho-ho! Big night ahead. Big afternoon ahead for the Bengals and the Chiefs tomorrow. It's on Miami. Thank you, Oxford. Clean it up, though, Cincinnati. I mean, all you need to know is that Joe Royer reached the end zone 3 times in this game. Reached the end zone 3 times. His final stat line was like 27 yards, 3 catches, 1 touchdown. Because 2 of those touchdowns were called back. Starting with a fumble at the goal line right before halftime would have made it 17-3. It was an awesome play. Was juking. Was using some of his power. Was also holding the ball carelessly. It sputters through the back of the end zone, touchback, and it's 10-3 at halftime instead of 17-3. That's now the second straight week that the Cats go on great drives to end the half, and Carter Brown misses a 25-yard field goal against Pittsburgh, and then Joe Royer fumbles it out of the back of the end zone to where UC is a -3 in the situations with those good of drives. They then had Miami 3rd and 8. Cats jumped off sides. Very next play, 3rd and 3. There's not as much pressure. They're, not as far behind the chains. Miami goes for like a 70-yard TD or something, and they pull back within striking distance. Then Joe Royer goes for an 80-plus yard touchdown. Unfortunately, that's called back because Gavin Gerhardt barely illegally downfield, and they wipe out that 80-yard TD, and Cincinnati had to get it done in other ways. Hold on defensively as Miami went for it. Late in the game, 4th and 4, down 8 points. Broadcaster was saying, Dustin Fox, I believe, was saying they should kick it right here. They should kick it and trust their defense to get a stop of Cincinnati. And instead, they go for it. They go back of the end zone. Cats break it up. Originally, refs threw some laundry on the field. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Scott, clean it up, Scott. Doesn't matter. Does not matter because the ref picked up the flag. There is no foul for pass interference on the play. Cincinnati ball. Party on in Clifton and have a trash can over at Brick Street. Enjoy Oxford. How sloppy this team is does give me hope that the Cats can improve. They do have some legit talent, I think. Starting with Corey Kiner, who went for 126 yards on the ground, carried it 21 times, and averages 6, had a 40-yard rush on 3rd and 1 where everyone in the stadium knew who the Cats were giving the ball to. It was Kiner, and Kiner nails it. How about that? Nails it for 40 yards. Burst through the hole. Speaking of bursted through the hole, Evan Pryor. Cats hadn't scored a fourth quarter touchdown all season. They were having no luck with explosive plays. It was, and look, UC had, let's do the math here, they had 401 yards of total offense. Over 400 yards. But for the majority of the game, they were chunk plays. It was 12 to Xavier Henderson. Then it was, 8 to Joe Royer. Then it was a 5-yard rush by Corey Kiner, followed by 3 from Sorsby, then followed by, 2 from Chance Williams. Something, it was something along those lines where the Cats were just kind of picking up a bunch of first downs. I mean, the final tally on first downs had to be, they had to have picked up 20-plus first downs in the game. In fact, they picked up 20. Exactly. 7 of 15 third down efficiency for Cincinnati. That's nice. They kept it 31 minutes as compared to Miami's 28, so they win the time of possession. They only turned it over once, that Royer fumble, as compared to Miami's 2 times. And get this is why I'm a little bit encouraged. Cincinnati needed to handle their business in the trenches, and they did that. 215 rushing yards compared to Miami's 24 on 34 attempts. Keep feeding Corey Kiner the ball. I want him getting more touches than 21. But again, second time that Evan Pryor shows the explosiveness off. He busts out the Bearcats' biggest play of the game. Finally, Sorsby hadn't been going deep or anything, so they just give it to Pryor, and it was right after, I think, a TV timeout. First play of the drive, it was like a 9-second drive, which means he ran 64 yards in 9 seconds. We will absolutely take that. But there were some troublesome moments where Miami was just a little too close. Again, they pull it within 24-16 late in the game. And they pull the Pitt Panthers playbook. They watched Narduzzi do it last week. It somehow works, and they decide to replicate it. They go for 2 instead of kicking the extra point. And they do not get it. They were bashed on that play, actually. I forget which Cat it was, but just nailed the dude out of bounds. 24-16. Cats are driving late in the game. They need a field goal. It's with like 2 minutes left. Field goal, they win it. And for those of you saying that are listening for the first time, Carter Brown was the hero. Special teams saved the day. No, it wasn't Carter Brown. It was Hawk. It was Ethan Hawk comes in. I never heard of the guy. I'm a diehard Bearcats fan. I'm on the message boards all the time. I had never heard of Ethan Hawk. It's Nathan Hawks. Ethan wasn't even his name. Don't disrespect the man. Nathan frickin' Hawks goes out, knocks down 2 field goals of 50 yards plus, including the one that seals it. Had a long of 55 at the end of the first half. Nathan, I will never disrespect you like that again. Noted, not Ethan. Nathan Hawks. the ball hawk, knocks it down, kicks that 27-16. That's where we stand. Bearcats win. They're 2-1 on the season. This was huge for Scott Satterfield. He needed this win. Last year, the loss to Miami is kind of what told us all it was going to be a tough season in Cincinnati. And then they followed it up with kind of the same thing against Oklahoma and against BYU. Like they kept bending the defense a little bit. They just could not break it and get the ball in the end zone. They were dominating time of possession for a lot of times last year. They were hanging around in the box score, just not on the scoreboard. And today they handled all those punches and they got it in the end zone just enough. Corey Kiner, Evan Pryor, Sorsby played a pretty good game, 21-34, 186 yards and the touchdown. Just enough to give the Cats everything they needed to get the W. But Satterfield needed this. If he would have lost in Oxford to drop the Cats to 1-2. Here's the thing about Satterfield. It was a weird hire from the get-go. Louisville fans were chiming in that they couldn't stand him. They're like, this guy, just enjoy running on 3rd down and 6. Then the Louisville players come out and they're like, this guy just, he showed his true colors. We don't like him. And we've seen that happen from time to time when a coach unexpectedly leaves, whatever it may be, because he had time on his contract and it doesn't sound like he was going to be fired, at least after that season. But the fact that everyone from Louisville was just so, and sure, maybe we were the same way about Fickell. Maybe that's just the way it goes. But him coming in and the personality just isn't what we've expected from UC coaches. The Fickell, the Butch Jones, the Brian Kelly, the Wes Miller, the Mick Cronin, the Bob Huggins. You know what they all have in common? They're psychopaths. They're psychos. You know what Scott Satterfield seems like? He seems like he's running the Cub Scouts. Like, good guy, rah, like, hey, Johnny, good job building that tent now. Someday you're going to lead this Boy Scouts program. He's a program guy. He's like Dabo Sweeney, And we haven't had a lot of success like that in Cincinnati. We haven't had many hires for this program like that. I mean, they've always gone with the fiery guy. He just does not seem that way. Not his fault. But when you're losing consistently and you lose to Miami in your first season and you lose every single home game at Nippert aside from Eastern Kentucky, and then you blow a massive lead against Pitt, and then you start having shades of the same thing in Oxford where you're leaving points on the board and making sloppy plays and untimely penalties and all these different things, you start to wonder, like, if the Bearcats don't win this game, I mean, I don't think there are many people out there that are fully on board with this hire, but there are plenty of people that will say, let's at least give him this season before we 1,000% turn our backs on him and say this is not going anywhere. Had he lost to Miami today, it's a completely different conversation. I promise you that. So he was sweating. They get the job done. Celebrate in the locker room and go get yourself a crunch and munch. I saw on some Miami message boards, they were coming at us. They called us cretins. Is that a word? Cretins? I know it means you're stupid. So the fact that I don't know that word, hey, more power to them. Maybe they were right. But on this message board, which is, I didn't know there were a lot of Miami football message boards, but hey, they sold the place out. Respect to them. They got a good team. But they were basically saying, like, who is this guy making fun of the crunch and munch, putting Doritos on a bagel? But nonetheless, Scott, go get yourself one. Celebrate, man. Celebrate. So Xavier Henderson, over 100 yards in the game as well. He was everywhere. Just a bundle of receptions for over 100 yards. Is clearly Brendan Sorsby's favorite target. It's very nice that he was able to come back after, not having as many chances last year with Emory Jones at quarterback, the way that the season unfolded and how much Cincinnati went with the rush and the unbalanced attack as compared to giving Henderson a lot of chances. But still, he was the leading catcher last year. He will most likely be the leading receptionist this year as well. This Miami rivalry as a whole, it's going away. For those of you that have not heard, this is the last game on either campus ever as of now. 2026, the two teams play in Paycor. And I, have thought about this for a while. Like, what do I think about this rivalry as a whole? Rivalry. Here's the deal. It's for anyone watching that's over the age of like 40, I would say it's 1,000% a rivalry. And the statistics back it up. Miami's won just as many games over the years as Cincinnati. In fact, in the 60s and 70s, they won 8 of 10 both years. Miami was dominant. Then from there, the next 30 years, it was pretty consistent. Miami was still had the better teams the majority of the time. But I remember the exact day where it shifted to where a group of people that are around the age of 30 and under no longer really consider this as much of a rivalry as the older generation does, and that's fine. That happens all the time with teams and in life. It was 2007 it shifted. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I got sunburnt as hell. Damn Accutane. I had to get rid of the pimples now, but the sun just beamed down on me and destroyed me. But on that day, I was like, this is not the 60s anymore. To Kill a Mockingbird, Sound of Music, they are not in theaters. Dustin Grutza had a big game for the Cats. We had those trio of backs. I don't know if Ramsey was on the team yet, but it's Bradley Gladar. It was definitely a Dominic Goodman on that team. It was a solid squad. We had beaten Oregon State's ass a couple games prior. We followed that Miami game up with like Marshall, and around that stretch right there, beat Marshall really good in Huntington. And around that stretch, it was like, all right, we may have something here. Kiss 107 was coming out of Crank That Soulja Boy with Go Bearcats, Go Bearcats sound bites. And I'm like, whoa, during football season they're doing this? I kind of forgot we had a program for a minute there. This is 2007. And I remember coming home from Oxford that day on talk radio, and they're talking about the Bearcats the whole time and not as much Bengals who played the next day. I can't remember exactly if the Bengals were good in the year 2007. I think it may have been the year Palmer hurt his shoulder, but I would say the fact that Cincinnati, was the big talking point on 1530, on 700, on all these radio stations throughout the next week was cool, right? Because they went up to Rutgers the next game. They won. They're finally ranked after all those years. It was like they had made a BCS bowl game just because they were heading into a Louisville game ranked. But I like the rivalry, and I think it needs to stay due to the fact that even if the games have not been – and they've been competitive. There have been 3-4 games where Miami could have easily won those football games. But – the numbers don't lie in terms of it being like Fox today was talking, Ohio State, Michigan on the broadcast and trying to compare it to the Victory Bell. Let's get real now. Let's get real. But this clearly to an older, anyone over the age of like 35 means a lot. My cousin, this could be complete BS, but he played for Moeller in 2005. They went up to Yager Stadium playing that Colerain team with Goodman and Mr. Simpson. Team just was legit, that Colerain team. But my cousin told me that they had beat UC in all the Yager Stadium locker room toilets. Beat UC. They're scrappy. That's a good team. They're going to be fine in the MAC, and it's a team that I would like on the schedule moving forward just due to the fact to bury the lead. It's a fun trip. It's a fun trip for both sides. Plenty of people from that go to school in Oxford are from the city of Cincinnati, and likewise with people in Cincinnati that have so many friends from high school or growing up, whatever it may be, that go off to school in Oxford. It's an easy Saturday trip. Post graduation, you and some of the alums can keep a friendly rivalry that way. There's just no benefits to canceling this game. Neutral site seems like maybe a bit of a stretch, having it at Paycor every year. I didn't mind going up to Oxford, quite frankly. Today was a fun game. It was a lot more enjoyable than, a road game at Vandy. I think that's fair. I probably think it's more enjoyable than a road game at trying to think of someone that's just doesn't have a great atmosphere. But Oregon State? I don't know. Anyways, Miami drops to 0-2. Gabbert, 23 of 35, 339 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. Miami's going to be just fine. They're going to compete for a MAC championship, which is a decent win for the Bearcats. We'll take it. That's a Miami team that was right there, had Northwestern on the ropes in Evanston or in Chicago on the lakefront. So we'll take a win where you can get it, especially one where you're tested in the process, and especially to tie all these points together, especially when you feel like this is a team that's made a lot of mistakes throughout this season, could easily be 3-0, has everything they want in front of them and is going to get better. They have a young quarterback that's continuously getting reps. Reps are the only given in life to getting better. They have a really good running back that I'm still fired up. He's in Cincinnati. Plucked him away from LSU. Corey Kiner. Pryor seems like he's a nice change of speeds, can also catch the ball out of the backfield. Outstanding wide receiver in Xavier Henderson. I think a Sunday-level tight end in Joe Royer. They do have some talent. So I think they can get better throughout the year, do exactly opposite of what they did last year, which was just fall apart as the season went on. So that's kind of where we stand. Next up is the Houston Cougars. That game is at Nippert Stadium on Saturday. It's at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Got all the time zones covered. Houston right now, and I don't know anything about them. I'm just going to be a transparent podcaster. For those of you that are interested in learning more about Houston, Eric Lilly, who is Bearcat Bunch on Twitter, one of the bbest Bearcat accounts in the game, and our guy Houdini, who now is a 31-year-old man, is starting to go by Hudson Klauke, his real name. He did the driving for the first time, where he wasn't in the 2-chair receiving the questions. He was actually hosting the show, and he's like, I said, welcome to Chatterbox Bearcats. I'm Houdini. And he's like, I can't do it. But I'm going to still call him Houdini. It's Houdini, baby. But Houston Cougars football, they play Rice. Obviously, if you're listening on the audio version, they've probably beaten Rice. But maybe not, because the Houston Cougars are 0-2 on the season. They got shellacked by UNLV by 20. That same UNLV team did beat Kansas. And then they played tough at Oklahoma. They lost 16-12 against the 15th-ranked Sooners. So transitive property, that's a decent team that's probably going to be better than Miami coming into Nippert Stadium on Saturday, September 21st. So, hey, still wish we would have beaten Pittsburgh. I'm still not sold on Scott Satterfield. He can prove me wrong. And I kind of liked the hire originally. There's just it's the personality. It's not his fault. Like I said, the Cub Scouts leader. It does not get me jacked up. And when you're losing games and not, putting a compelling product out there from start to finish, it's hard to really get behind him and say, this is our guy. And it makes you wonder, like, if he lost to Miami and then loses to Houston, like, could you rip that Band-Aid off at some point and just be like, this just seems like a weird fit. I don't think many people believe in this. But, hey, he lives to see another day, sweating a little, but Bearcats get it done 27-16. Next week, Houdini will join me for that postgame show. Be sure to subscribe to the audio podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's at Chatterbox Bearcats. We got a feature interview with Ice Cube coming up. We also talked with Deuce McBride. We're dropping that on the channel. He answered why Mick Cronin never recruited him. So we got some exclusive stuff that's dropping on at Chatterbox Bearcats channel. And then again, my apologies for wasting like 10 minutes of your time to start the show. That's where if I could just get on the chat, if I was more organized and didn't have all this ADD, I just had the chat in front of me, and 5 seconds into the show when I saw your microphone's off, buddy, it would have been as simple as that. But instead, I got 9 things up. I got documents. I got, the stream deck where I'm controlling everything. So that's that. I'm going to end this stream, but first of all, I'm going to finish you with the intro video for those of you that didn't see it, because quite frankly, I put some time into it. It's fire, and the Bearcats won. Let's celebrate. See ya, everyone.
They only allow 40,000 into tiny Nippert Stadium.
They say nothing good in life comes easy.
You had to buy football tickets to get basketball tickets. And basketball is the hot ticket because Bob Huggins had the Bearcats rolling.
Program that was rumored to be disbanding about 15, 20 years ago after some huge losses.
They say the longer you have to wait for something, the more you'll appreciate it when that someday comes.
Caught! Touchdown, Armand Benz!
We thought the moment had arrived,
They are in the playoff.
only to find out the moment's been too big.
Hey, go to hell!
At the end of the day, it's a business.
Present day, nobody believes in this team.
Scott Satterfield, no answers at the moment.
But with this program, the best things have come when you least expect it.
Number 1! Let's go!
And the Bearcats are up 16-0 in South Bend.
They're disciplined now. That loudspeaker came on, say leave the field. I mean, they turned it around now and got off the field.
Welcome to the only live Bearcats postgame show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats.